Hello and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into a new beer from Anchorage Brewing Company. And this beer is called Frayja, and it's a Baltic porter. They don't say on there Imperial, but it definitely is an Imperial. It's 11% ABV. That's extremely high on a Baltic porter. Really any porter in general, but certainly a Baltic. This specific beer has been aged for 1 year in Woodford reserve barrels, and then it was also aged on top of Madagascar vanilla beans as well. So label art, as always, very, very cool. This has a blue tiger. I presume that is their depiction of Frayja, and kind of matches this nice light blue wax dip on the top. So we've got our trusty pointy end of our bottle opener. As always, we will score through this wax underneath the edge all the way around. Now I can tell you this is pretty thick on this one, so this is going to take a little bit of muscling to get around here, and it's probably going to take a couple attempts. Actually, yeah, freed the wax right there. So hopefully I left enough of a groove to get a grip on here, and we'll be able to get this cap right off. A little tricky, but we got it. Just going to check for residual. No real noticeable residual wax there, so got this one correct. We'll get it poured right in our trusty porter glass. Oh, very thick, very dark, as expected, 11%. Porters tend to be pretty effervescent for their style, so this head may collapse pretty quickly, but it actually looks pretty creamy here as I poured that. That does look quite creamy, and I can tell you immediately as I started pouring this, the aroma is absolutely pungent. It just pops out at you as you're filling the glass up. So visually, this is pitch black. It is 11%, so a lot of roasted malts and a lot of them. Yeah, I can definitely see, the camera's probably not picking it up, but I can see the carbonation, at least that part that's moving up the side. Very, very tiny champagne-like bubbles. So this actually, I kind of expected the head to just collapse. The carbonation was so fine in this that it did make this nice, rich, creamy head on top. Looks absolutely fantastic. So we're going to get right up over this for a proper sniff. Wow. Yeah, that Woodford barrel really jumps out at you. You can really, really smell it. The vanilla also comes in. It kind of, you get the barrel first, and then you get the vanilla behind it. And then underneath that all, you do have this very classic roasty malt bill aroma that comes through as well. So really, everything that went into making this beer what it is very present and very much in equal parts on the aroma. It's absolutely fantastic. It's pungent. It smells amazing. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in and see what this one's about. Oh, man. Oh, that is delicious. Honestly, delicious is an understatement. That's incredible. Oh, this is Porter Gold. Man. Oh, Anchorage, every time. I know, I always sound like the biggest Anchorage fanboy over here. It's because I am. They keep brewing beers like this. I mean, they're going to have a fan here. That's just the way it is. So this is absolutely incredible. It's big, it's bold, it's pungent, it's extremely flavorful, and I'm getting everything. It's exceptionally well balanced. I mean, I rather do expect this from Anchorage at this point. I've had enough of their beers. I know what they're about. But every time, it's still just such a pleasure, especially to jump into a new beer from them. So let's talk texture first. Body, this is weighty. It's 11%. It's an Imperial Baltic. It feels heavy. It's got a lot of heft to it, a lot of weight. In terms of the mouthfeel, yes, it's quite resistant. There's a lot of viscosity happening here. And oftentimes on porters, you can feel the carbonation on the palate. This one you can't. The carbonation in it is so fine that it really just gets extremely silky, extremely creamy when you agitate around the palate. But there's no real discernible feel of the carbonation on the palate, which is relatively common in a porter. But this feels the part. The body and the mouthfeel feel really big and bold for a nice high ABV version of this beer style. So the flavor profile. As soon as you swallow, it is just a burst of everything together all at once. It's the barrel, it's the vanilla, and it's that roasty malt bill. The barrel really tastes like the barrel throughout the entire experience. And the vanilla tastes like the vanilla throughout the entire experience. But the malt bill is where the beer gets a little more complex. So you get this big burst of roast up front, and that slowly kind of starts to open up into other underlying layers. There's a little bit of a coffee bean, roast coffee bean-like quality to it. There's elements of earthiness. There's obviously a ton of roast, and there's even a little bit of a char back. Maybe not quite as intense as you would get, say, in some of Anchorage's big stouts, but it's still there. So there's a lot of layering that's happening with that malt bill. And it just gets progressively more complex the longer the decay on your sip goes. And it's absolutely delicious. So I'm going to jump back in. We're going to take a second sip of this beautifully balanced, absolutely delicious beer. Let everything re-intensify. Then we're going to talk about this finish. But it's as amazing as I expected it would be. Barrel, vanilla, and roast malt in tandem. It's so big, it's so bold, it's in your face immediately. Now the malt's really starting to move into that kind of roasted coffee-like territory. It's getting a lot of earthiness coming in, a lot of underlying char. The barrel still is present as ever. The vanilla still is present as ever. It's all right there. It's just ever present on the palate. So, the finish on this beer. It is extremely wet. It feels very full. And yes, this is a thick, viscous beer, so it really does a great job coating the palate. As you might anticipate, a beer like this, that pungent, that's also barrel-aged, the finish is very long. Way longer than your average Baltic porter, to be certain. And on the end of this one, it is very much a combination of two factors. The barrel, as you might expect, is a large driver. I would say that's about 60% of the lingering on the back. The second is that roasty malt. Once we get to the end of the finish, there's really just the slightest whisper of vanilla that pops in and out occasionally. But it's about 60-40 barrel to malt. And where the malt ends up on this is that slightly earthy and charry. It's a combination of that too, and it's absolutely fantastic. You get a lot of mileage on each sip, and it's just absolutely delicious. I am such a fan of their beers. This one is no exception. I'm going to take my time, sip on this, come up my scores. When we come back, we'll get this one ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This is Anchorage Brewing Company's Frayja, a Baltic porter that was aged in Woodford Reserve barrels and then aged further on Madagascar vanilla beans. 11% ABV on this one. Anchorage Brewing is based in Anchorage, Alaska. So this is another one of this small little handful. I think out of the hundreds of beers I've reviewed to date, there's maybe 10, 11 that have gotten an absolutely perfect score. And this was another one of them. Honestly, if you're a porter fan, and you can get your hands on this, I absolutely recommend it. I do know this one sold out very quickly, and I'll just take the opportunity again to say it. If you haven't checked out Tavour yet, it's the craft beer to your door delivery service. You can get your hands on beers from brewers that don't distribute in your part of the country, so you can get access to a lot of different beers you otherwise wouldn't be able to get in your local market. And that includes Anchorage Brewing Company. If you don't live in Alaska, you cannot get your hands on their beers because they don't ship out of state, except for Tavour. That is their only partner. Honestly, their beers are so world class, I would say that alone is worth it. There's no subscription, there's just a flat rate for shipping plus the cost of the beer. And you can load up your crate, which they fill at the time they're getting ready to ship it to you, pulled from their warehouse, as many beers as you want to get before you say, okay, go ahead and ship it to me. That's how it works. Flat rate shipping. Absolutely fantastic. Anchorage Brewing, just yet again doing it right. Absolutely one of the best porters I ever had in my life. And Imperial Baltic, just perfectly executed. I mean, there was nothing I could say to critique this in any negative light. They absolutely nailed it yet again. I have come to expect and accept this from Anchorage. They are not messing around. They take what they do very seriously. They're very inventive, and they're clearly perfectionists. This is yet another perfect example of what they're all about. Folks, that's today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to stay in the loop when our videos go live, just turn on the notifications, hit the bell icon. It's right next to the subscribe button. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.